And welcome back to the YugiTuber Grand Championship Tournament, Round 1. For this match, we have Yugimation going up against Anthony Ellenburg. And it's going to be a special round for this commentary, because I have a very special guest with me. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
What is up, my Yugi Bros? I am the one, the only, the RJB0. Glad to be on the show today. What do we got for...
So we have Yugimation, who's actually going to be running Hazy Flames, going up against Anthony Ellenburg's Beals Turbo.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been excited to see Yugimation duel. This is something I don't think I've ever seen before.
This is something that probably a lot of people haven't actually seen before. And it looks like Yugimation's actually going to opt to go first.
Those Moki sleeves. This is all just so Yugimation. Not only is it Hazy Flames, but also the Moki sleeves.
Robert, are you experienced with... Well, actually, we got a potted duality coming down first. How experienced are you with Hazy Flames?
I know that most of them can't be targeted, and that Basiltrice is their incredible boss monster, and they can make rank 6 fairly easily. I'm not certain about what the strategy is to get there, though. I'm excited to see how they work.
So Yugimation adds the Monarch Stormforth off that potted duality. He goes ahead and sets a couple of back row, and he summons out the Hazy Flame Cerberus.
Cerberus is a pretty cool card, since it does have that little ability, that kind of TG thing, that when it goes to the graveyard, you can grab another Hazy Flame out.
Yeah, it's probably one of the staple cards for the deck. I mean, you pretty much have to run it at 3. Anthony Ellenburg's just going to go ahead and set 3 cards, and he's going to pass it straight back to Yugimation. It's a pretty slow start so far. I think this
yeah, that Monarch
Yugimation,
Stormforth doesn't look like it's going to help. I would say so, since really he doesn't have to do a huge amount right now. He has to force out Ellenburg's back row, and once he does that, Cerberus will likely go off.
So Yugimation just goes ahead and swings for the 1k with Cerberus, and it connects, so Anthony Ellenburg's not falling for it.
But, I mean, that's really all Yugimation needs to do. He needs to swing for 1,000 until it poses enough of a threat that Ellenburg's going to run over it, and that looks like it's about to happen right now.
We see the Armageddon Knight come down, and if we had to guess, knowing that this is Beals Turbo we're going up against, I would say he's probably...
I smell a plague.
Yep. There it is, Plague Spreader Zombie.
All right, this is a play that I haven't seen since, like, 2010. Actually, that's a lie. I've been using Teledad on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro a lot. I really love the deck, but...
So Ellenburg is going to return a card to the top of his deck to special summon that Plague Spreader Zombie.
Right.
It looks like he's going to sync up for 6. What do you think he's going to go for, Robert?
Let's see. Goyo. That's really great because he can grab the Cerberus back and have a 2,000 on the board. It's going to only have 200 defense, but down goes Bottomless.
You see a Bottomless
that's
Trapple.
The disadvantage of using Plague Spreader is it goes into a synchro at a minus, and if you lose that synchro, that's a lot of advantage that you've used up for that turn.
Yugimation's actually a card advantage now. He still has the monster on board, and looks like Anthony Ellenburg just really didn't do anything in that last turn.
Yep, and just in goes the Cerberus.
That's all he needs to do. It's like we've been saying. Now, I actually got to watch this match live, and you can see the watchers, like, the chat was going absolutely crazy during this match throughout the entirety of it.
Oh man, I can imagine. Okay, that's interesting.
So you see even End-Phase MST.
It's interesting that he chooses the End-Phase MST now instead of back when he was going for... Oh my goodness! He rips the 7th
rank up Magic the 7th
Oh my god!
Well, no, Robert, you have to remember that he returned that to the top of his deck with the Plague Spreader.
Oh, of course he did. Of course he did. That makes so much sense.
But that's so good.
That's so good. That's so good. Now
he's going to go into a Neo Galaxy-ized Tachyon Dragon.
Ooh, things go wild. I was not expecting the rank up Magic, but if you're running a deck whose like best monster is Plague Spreader Zombie, I just like that seems like a no-brainer now.
And now Anthony Ellenburg has a 4,500 beat stick on board that can basically negate everything.
Ooh, that's painful.
Yugimation's going to take that straight to the face. That's a lot of damage.
Let's see. Is he
So
going to
now,
let it go?
so the tides have been turned now. So now Anthony Ellenburg is
Yep.
the one sitting with the monster on board.
Let's see. I don't know about C107. Is C107 a quick effect? So can he activate it during Yugimation's turn?
I don't actually remember off the top of my head, but from the Cerberus, he's gonna add the
Periton. Yeah.
Periton.
I believe that's the one that allows you to send a fire monster to summon a fire monster.
You get this. I believe you get to special summon 2 fire monsters.
Two?
Because you send a fire monster and you tribute off the Periton, and then you get to special summon 2.
Yeah. All
so
right.
I wonder how Anthony Ellenburg. I wonder how Yugimation's go. Ooh, Onslaught. Interesting.
Okay. I've seen Onslaught used in Hazy Flames. I had a friend back in a long time ago who used this deck.
Well, it has perfect synergy, so...
Yep, and so we've got the Cerberus. That gives him not just tribute fodder, but another thing that could potentially give him a search if that Onslaught ends up just destroying it during the end phase. The Stormforth comes down. Yeah, that makes sense.
Down. That's the perfect answer for that Neo Galaxy Eyes.
Yeah, see, this is why I was asking about 107 having a quick effect, because if it had the quick effect, it could have negated the Stormforth. But he knew that Yugimation had the Stormforth, so it's interesting that he chose to make that play, not being able to stop a Stormforth.
Yeah, and Yugimation activating the effect of the Periton, sending the blaster from his hand, and special summoning Sphinx and Hydra from his deck.
So I imagine Sphinx is going to activate its effect to try and get an extra special summon, trying to boost up that Basiltrice.
Well, it looks like Yugimation wants to go into Big Chicken, but unfortunately he can't because he's Stormforthed.
Oh, he can't summon from the extra deck during this turn, that's right.
But it's not like he even needs to.
I mean, right now he's just got
like you said, and activate the Sphinx.
Yeah.
Let's see. There we go. He activates the Sphinx. For those of you who don't know, Sphinx's effect is that you declare a card type, and then you send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, either monster, spell, or trap. And if you call it correctly, you get to special summon a Hazy Flame monster from either your hand or your graveyard.
Honestly, unless one of those cards is a battle trap, I see this game being over right about now.
It quite possibly could be. Anthony Ellenburg trying to stop it with the breakthrough skill, but unfortunately, the Hazy Flame monsters cannot be targeted.
Oh my goodness!
And Yugimation calls it right and gets a special summon another Cerberus.
Like, even if that's a mirror force, then Yugimation is going to come out of this with just an incredible amount of card advantage.
That is over 8,000 damage on board right now. So if all of these attacks go through, that's game 1 right there.
Let's see.
So the Sphinx got through. The Cerberus got through. He's going for the second Cerberus.
Over. Oh, wait.
He's at 100
left. What's he got? Oh, I was honestly hoping for a D prison. I was like rooting for there to be a big comeback that turn, but it just looks like Yugimation dominated off of that Periton play.
Well, Anthony Ellenburg's still really smart with that rank up magic, the 7th one.
Yeah,
setting it back with the Plague Spreader.
It's just too bad that he had to lose it to the Monarch Stormforth. It just really shows how bad a position Anthony Ellenburg was after that Goyo bottomless play, that he went into the Rake Up Magic play knowing that his opponent had Stormforth.
And so with the magic of editing, we're actually going to fast forward past the side decking process.
Let's see what happens round 2.
Now, if you were Anthony Ellenburg, would you want to go first or second?
Ooh, that's a really tough one, because you want to ensure that your opponent can't set up their board before you can get your Beelzes going, because really, Basiltrice is a big problem for Beels. But also, there's the fact that I just totally forgot what I was going to say about that. Heck of a commentator I am.
Okay.
Also, there's
Anthony Ellenburg just sets a couple of cards and passes.
Yeah, also there's the Stormforth. The Stormforth is really painful for a deck like Ellenburg's, which relies on monsters that take a lot of resources to put down. So it is kind of dangerous.
Just sets 3 back row and passes. Again, this is looking like game 1. We see a Goblinberg come down.
Okay, this is something I was not expecting. What's he gonna summon?
Nor did I. He's gonna bring out Diamond Dude with Goblinberg's effect.
I guess this is a Teledad format. That is a misfire on that bottomless. Well, looks like Ellenburg is not going to be going into anything.
Might have meant to activate a different... There
yeah,
we go.
There's
that
the Book of Moon.
Sense.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just really rough for Yugimation that he accidentally activated that bottomless, because that's a huge piece of information for Ellenburg to have.
Mm-hmm. But Ellenburg now with 3 monsters on board to Yugimation 0.
Yep.
Yugimation admitting his misplay.
Plague Spreader.
Ooh,
interesting.
Flips up the Plague Spreader.
I'm intrigued to see what 6 he goes for right now with Yugimation not having a monster.
I agree, because Goyo isn't exactly optimal at the moment.
Yeah.
Anthony Ellenburg opting to play it like he doesn't know what Yugimation has.
That's some serious sportsmanship right there. Oh, I know what he's going to do. Is he going to stepwise? I mean, that would hurt him in terms of advantage, but
potentially
putting down a Beals would get past that bottomless, particularly since Yugimation just let it go.
Which is surprising. But we'll see. I'm still surprised he went for the Goyo Guardian.
Yeah, I would have gone for something that I could throw away earlier in the game. I'm fairly certain he'd be running multiple level 6 synchros if he's running Plague Spreader.
Maybe like a Psyhemoth or a Sirius, just some other level 6 besides Goyo.
Yeah, it looks like he's just leaving the Goyo on the board, which does make sense since Beals is not optimal in this matchup.
But you know what? He swung for the 28 and it connected, and that could matter in the long run. So he passes play back to Yugimation. It's really interesting now. And Plague Spreader's loaded up for next turn, too. A hidden armory gets dropped down.
Ooh, this could be huge. Mills a Periton, okay.
Mills off the Periton. And I assume he's going to search for Snatch Steel.
I would go for Snatch Steel.
Tech equip spell that...
But if Ellenburg just set an MST, this could be really bad for Yugimation.
So he gets the Snatch Steel, as we presumed. Now that Snatch Steel's back at 1, Hidden Armory is just...
It's just ridiculous. Snatch Steel is just such a good card. I underestimated it at first, but it's just there are so many ways that we have to use our MST these days that the amount of back row hate in the game at the moment is just not enough to deal with. Oh, but there goes the MST, just like I thought. See, now Yugimation is in trouble because he's committed a turn to using that Snatch Steel, and it is all for naught.
Goyo returning back to Anthony Ellenburg's side of the field. I wonder if Yugimation is going to have any other follow-up plays to go with this.
The only thing I can imagine he could do during the rest of this turn is use an Onslaught to get a Cerberus so he can have a Search. Or a Raigeki! Okay, that's another play. I always forget about that one.
Yugimation just with all the answers in this match. Sets another back row, too.
Yeah, see, there it would have been nice to have had the Beals, but I guess it's really tough. That's one of the problems with the Hazy Flame matchup for rogue decks, is that Hazy Flames have both removal that doesn't involve destruction and a lot of removal that does involve destruction. And with the inability to target them, it just does not leave a rogue deck many options.
Anthony Ellenburg just passing his turn back, and Yugimation following suit.
Not a lot of plays going on. The thing about Yugimation's deck is it actually really requires combo pieces. With only 2 cards in hand, that means that at most he could have 2 monsters. And that means...
And it also kind of requires the opponent to actually play with cards like Onslaught and Monarch Stormforth. It's requiring the opponent to have a monster on their side of the field. But Yugimation
I see a Darklaw play coming. Darklaw could either be really good for Ellenburg or just absolutely subpar, depending on what Yugimation's hand looks like. Because if that's a Stormforth and a Periton in his hand, then that could be just like the worst committal of life points that Ellenburg could be pulling right now.
And there's the Shadow Mist. This is a really interesting BL's Turbo build now that the Hero Structure deck's been released. I'm really liking this.
I actually had I don't know if you saw, I had a video about a deck very similar to this, but the way that Ellenburg is playing is just vastly different from how I used it.
Mm-hmm. Not activating the effect of Shadow Mist off of Hero Lives.
Okay.
He's instead tributing for Malicious. Interesting.
Alright.
Opting to go for Shadow Mist's second effect to search the elemental hero rather than the mask change spell.
Yeah, this is an for a Bubble Man.
Oh, I know. He's going to go ahead and get Plague Spreader back because it's in his grave. Yep, there he goes. Anthony Ellenburg goes ahead and activates Plague Spreader.
Yeah, I figured there was an 8 play coming up.
There's no other reason he would tribute for the Malicious otherwise. And so there's the Plague Spreader.
That's interesting.
Now, would you want to go into Beals in this situation?
Let's see. He says he's playing like he doesn't know Bottomless is there. So, keeping that aside, Beals is still a fairly good card. Stardust Spark Dragon is a really interesting choice, though. Which tells me that he has something else to protect other than the monster that he summoned. Because Beals, if the monster that he summoned was all that mattered, he would have gone for Beals. But I have the feeling that he's got another play he wants to hold on to here.
Ellenburg activating the effect of Malicious, banishing it from the graveyard to add another, or to special summon rather, another copy to the field.
Right. It just goes into battle phase. Like, this is a really interesting play.
Nice, swinging for the 3,300.
Yep.
So he goes in with Malicious. Yugimation takes it.
Down to...
And Yugimation takes both. That puts him down to 1,900.
I'm wondering what that back row is. Aside from the Bottomless. Ooh! Oh my goodness!
Mask change on Malicious.
Oh my goodness, and that Stardust Spark Dragon means that Yugimation cannot use the Bottomless. Okay, there is the play that he got Stardust Spark Dragon out for.
And now it makes absolutely perfect sense why he chose not to use the first effect of Shadow Mist when he was special summoned off Hero Lives, because he already had the mask change in hand. It made no sense.
Absolutely. Let's see. This is an interesting set of questions Yugimation is asking about. Forbidden Land! Oh my goodness!
Yugimation chaining Forbidden Lands to the Malicious, which makes it so that Anthony Ellenburg is unable to mask change the Malicious.
What a play! Oh man, that is incredible. I've been loving the use of Lance against opponents' offensive cards recently. Like, I saw a guy at Regionals playing Shadows lose to Gem Knights because the Gem Knight player lanced a Denko Sekka that he was trying to Shadow fuse with.
Oh, wow.
It was beautiful.
That's amazing. And Anthony Ellenburg is just forced to pass play back to Yugimation. We have a Hazy Pillar activated.
Okay, that allows him to get the Sphinx without tribute. This is now a really gutsy play, because Sphinx really has to go through at this point for him to have really any options.
And if Yugimation can get lucky with Sphinx like he did in Game 1, it might pay off. So he's activating the effect.
Yeah, a Photon Strike Bouncer would be huge here.
He's calling Spell. What's he gonna rip?
Oh my goodness, there goes the spell card.
Wow.
Whew.
So now Yugimation's able to special summon another Hazy Flame.
And there goes
so
Periton. Okay. I'm intrigued. Anthony Ellenburg has an interesting reaction to that play.
Again, discarding the Blaster for the Periton. Similar to Game 1, he's bringing out the Cerberus and the Hydra.
It's funny, he hasn't even needed to use that Blaster. Every time he's gotten a Periton's effect off, it's been devastating. Oh.
But unlike last time, there was no Stormforce to stop The trump card of
Here it
Yugimation's
comes.
deck.
I feel it. I feel that chicken. So and down it goes with the battle cry, gobble gobble. Oh my goodness. That Basiltrice. Ooh, with 3 material under it. That's gonna be. Oh, and then he also had a Hydra underneath it, which gives him an extra material, making that 4
It does.
materials on the Basiltrice.
That is a very scary
Oof.
card right now.
That Basiltrice is going to be incredibly tough to get over. I mean, if Ellenburg really survives, it's like one of the very few things that can get rid of that Basiltrice right now is a Stormforth, and I don't even think I see no reason why Ellenburg would be running it.
So Basiltrice, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it gains 200 attack for each material underneath it, and then it can also detach a material to banish any card on his opponent's field.
Correct.
And I believe it has another effect on top of that.
It gains effects based on the number of Hazy Flames under it, and at one point it cannot be targeted.
Isn't that at 4?
I think it might be at 4.
And then I think like at 5, it's something like it can destroy like all cards.
Yeah, it's a really incredible card. It was basically the early version of number 86.
So it goes ahead and attacks over the Malicious for a lot of
damage. And
damage.
then main phase 2 slams that Stardust Spark Dragon.
Which cannot do anything.
Yeah, this is a tough position to get out of. Unless Ellenburg top-decked another one of those 7th ones. This might be the end.
And especially because he had to pay that 4,000 life points for a hero lance. He's really in the hole right now. But I mean, calling it off the Sphinx, like, if that didn't happen, none of this would have gotten to where it was.
That was just incredibly lucky for Yugimation. And it's over.
He pulled it off 2 out of 2
times.
Oh
my goodness.
And
wow.
Anthony Ellenburg concedes.
What a
That's
match.
it. Yugimation takes it over Anthony Ellenburg. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next match.